I'd like to call the local planning agency meeting August 7, 2025 to order. Please rise for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. First order of business is the approval of the agenda. I need a motion.
So moved. I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Chairman, I'll call the roll attendance.
Okay.
It's not on the agenda, but it's usually standard practice.
Okay.
So say here when I announce your name, or if you're not here, don't speak. Chairman Lohan.
Here.
Member Lombardo.
Here.
Member Townsend.
Here.
Member Maturo.
Here.
Member Hartford. Here. And Member Colapiatro and Doogie have asked to be excused today. We do have a quorum.
Okay, public comments will be heard following the petitioner and staff presentations. So I'd like to ask the city clerk to read the case title.
Case name Hickory on the Bay Comprehensive Plan Amendment is a request to amend the City of Bonita Springs future land use map to redesignate approximately 0.7 acres plus or minus from the medium-density multifamily residential future land use category to the general commercial future land use category of a property located at 4752 Bonita Beach Road, Southwest.
Good morning, Mary Tornberg with Community Development. Today we are here for a project called Hickory on the Bay. To make it more clear, this project has two components. This request you're hearing today is the comprehensive plan amendment to change the future land use map. And then in 2 weeks, the zoning board will hear a companion plan development request for the entire project. So this specific request is just for the two parcels all the way on the western side, 4752 Bonita Beach Road, and then the almost submerged parcel attached to it. To further explain that, the applicant is here. They are ready to make their presentation. And if you have any questions, we'll continue on. Thank you.
Thank you. Good morning. For the record, Rich Ivanovich on behalf of the applicant. The representatives of the owner are Tracy and Mike Councilman. They're back here. Two people right there. John Vonnie is our engineer. Ted Treesh is our transportation consultant. Tim Hall is our environmental consultant. And Bob Mulhare and Jeremy Chastain are our professional planners for the project. I'm a land use lawyer, so I will give you the overview of what the project is, and the team is available to answer any specific questions that you may have regarding our request. This is kind of a little interesting request in that the property is already zoned for commercial uses. However, the growth management plan, or comprehensive plan, sorry, sometimes they call them different things, has a different designation on the property. This is the 0.66 acres, or almost 0.7 acres that the clerk and Mary were talking about when we started the presentation. And then you can see that's the red piece. That's what we're here to talk about today, just the red piece. The remaining blue outline is the entirety of what will be the CPD that will be heard in a couple of weeks by the zoning board. I'm going to take you through some exhibits to show that essentially this parcel was incorrectly designated on the future land use map when it was adopted by the city of Bonita Springs. So our request is a small-scale comprehensive plan amendment. It's a map change to properly designate this property general commercial from its current designation of medium-density multifamily residential. This is the existing future land use map within the city of Bonita Springs. The gold color is the parcel we're talking about today, and that's the piece that is designated medium-density residential. And as you can see, to the right, which is east, and to the left, which is west, all those other parcels are designated general commercial under the future land use map. So it appears to be pretty clear that, and when we asked why was this parcel not also designated red, nobody really has a good answer for why, other than I think the answer is we're human and a mistake occurred. So what we're here to do, as you can see on the left, there we go. This is the subject parcel. We're designating it red to be general commercial like the other properties. The parcels, this parcel right here was undesignated, and this parcel right here was misdesignated. Those have been corrected through an administrative process. Let me go back a slide. Had this piece right here been red, these pieces right here would have been administratively changed to red because they were also undesignated under the future land use map. But since we were already here addressing the gold piece, staff asked us to include that undesignated adjacent piece in our application. So that's why you see this portion included in our request before you today. This is the zoning map for City of Bonita Springs, and as you can see, the property is designated C1, which is commercial, and everything around it is also designated C1, which is commercial. So further indicating that there was a mistake. It should have been designated commercial on the growth management plan. This is the overlay for Bonita Springs. It's intended to be more intense uses on this portion of Bonita Beach Road based on the overlay. And our zoning petition, which will be heard by a different board, will address the specific development standards associated with the property. And I think importantly is your staff agrees that this property should be designated to general commercial. As I'm sure you've read the staff report, they've determined that it's totally our request is totally consistent with the other elements of your comprehensive plan. That I think nobody knows why it had that designation, but we're correcting what is an incorrect designation. Again, this is purely to talk about what color should we be on the map. We're not here to talk about what uses would go on the property. We're not here to talk about what the development standards will be on the property. We're purely here to talk about what's the right color on the map. We're here to correct an error and to avoid any disputes in the future should we move forward with the allowed uses under the zoning district. So with that, that's an overview of what we're here to talk about. Our entire team is here to answer any specific questions you may have that I didn't answer, but that's the request, is to change the property to general commercial, consistent with everything around us and consistent with the existing zoning on the property. And with that, that's our presentation.
Thank you.
If the board would like, I can go through my presentation, or I can just make a few remarks, and if you have questions, follow up, however the board would choose.
Proceed.
Thank you. So as previously discussed, the applicant is requesting to amend those two parcels from the medium density multifamily residential to the general commercial future land use category. And now we should all be familiar with the parcels in question. So as previously mentioned, the parcel is different than all of the surrounding parcels. Those are all general commercial, and then to the north are more residential properties. And therefore, they're trying to be consistent with the remaining surrounding properties. what I do want to mention with the current designation is that through our research, we found this last sentence right here. I don't think I can highlight, oops. That under the Lee plan, these two properties were designated as urban community. And then when the city incorporated, we took the Lee plan and made our own future land use map. So under urban community in the Lee plan, that allowed for commercial uses, residential and light industrial. And the way we have it phrased within our comprehensive plan is that those under that designation are then brought into this medium density multifamily residential. It doesn't necessarily mean it's correct, but that's how we see that it was handled over time. And then just to correct the record, while those parcels were located in the C1 zoning designation, when we passed the Bonita Beach Road corridor in 2019, they are now located within the beach zone of the Bonita Beach Road corridor overlay, which does allow for commercial uses as well as residential and some ancillary, not industrial, but more retail components. And then the general commercial future designation, which we talked about, would allow for, as they're requesting, a waterfront restaurant, but for any commercial uses to be consistent with that beach zone that is already in place. As mentioned, the parcels are vacant. They have not been developed. Some erosion has occurred over time. That's why you will see that inlet there. But the applicant has provided all the necessary documents showing the letters of availability from all the applicable utilities and providers. And then the applicant did participate in the neighborhood meetings that are required. So they had a pre-submittal meeting and then a post-sufficiency meeting. Those documents are located within your packet. At that time, compatibility concerns were raised by the neighbors, and staff finds that based on the documentation provided that this request is consistent solely for the comprehensive plan amendment. Again, solely for the comprehensive plan amendment. The applicant did do their meetings for the comprehensive plan and the plan development at the same time, so some of those issues can be discussed at the same time, but it doesn't mean they're all applicable to this request. And then in the staff report, you'll see that we mentioned that consistency with the Bonita plan is adhered to, and that we recommend approval of the request. Any questions from me?
Anybody have any questions?
Not really, no.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Chairman, we have 5 registered speakers. Should I call them? When I call your name, please go to that lectern and restate your name. You'll have 4 minutes to make your comment. Terry Lennox, Esquire, representing Bonita Fish Farms. Fish House, sorry. Pardon me.
Haven't farmed it yet. My name is Terry Lennox. I'm an attorney. I represent the Fish House Restaurant directly across the street from the project. I've got 2 basic issues at the comprehensive plan level. One is the procedural one. I have, if I could, I'd like to show you, I went out there and took pictures this morning of the signage that's required. And the signs are behind, I don't know, you got the project up here? Could somebody put the project up, or the comp plan map?
Is this the one?
Yeah, that's it. Something like that would be fine. Yeah,
You can control it from here. This one here. Yes, sir.
that's it. If I may approach the chair.
Come on up.
The issue that I got procedurally is the signage. If you look at the signage, I did it this morning, cannot see the signage from the road at all, and that's because it's down into a depth level.
Is the visualizer available? Oh, Antonio, perhaps you can put it on the visualizer and then speak into the microphone. Shall I pause I'm going to pause the timer.
Yes. If there was a way to get those pictures on the screen, I'm not sure we'll be able to do that, but.
Okay.
Okay, that'll work.
All right. All right. Well, you can barely, the problem with the area for the signage, there you go, is that the area really is the low area. I don't know if it's all wetlands or not, but a lot of it is wetlands. And you can see the signage that needs to be placed out there for public hearing. You can barely see it. In fact, the only reason why I saw it is because somebody walked down the road and had looked over the railing. It's that bad. And there's supposed to be public signage, and procedurally, you can see it's down there. You can't see it from the road. I took these pictures this morning to show that you can't see it. That's the procedural issue. I do not think you have jurisdiction to hear the case without the signage being properly placed out there. The second issue is really a density versus intensity issue. This project, as you can see, because of the signage is so low, it's very much environmental issues out there. I know the argument's going to be made that, oh, well, we can cover that when we do the CPD. But I believe the reason why they had that at not a commercial level out there in that particular area is because of the environmental issues involving that, and it should remain there. If it remains there, that's not saying they don't have the density out there. They can put something in density out there. They probably could even use some of it for the intensity of the commercial use to the side. But once you give them complete access with regard to the comp plan, then they can use the entire thing for the intensity. Now that leads us to the issue which was spoken of when they had their meeting with the people out here, and that was the traffic. Again, it goes the intensity. This area is very real problem, and I'll read you from the minutes of the meeting with the people out there. It says, concern was raised about the traffic. The traffic on Bonita Beach Road has gotten progressively worse. The concern is that the traffic and the amount of parking would be provided similar to Coconut Jacks. The traffic for Coconut Jacks currently backs up onto Bonita Beach Road, and the off-site parking provided by Coconut Jacks is not enough. And then it goes on to explain that they explain that the restaurant, quote, at Hickory Bay will be provided valet parking during peak hours. Well, there's no issue, there's no XL, decel lane in the CPD. And I believe that if you will deny them the comprehensive plan change, they can still use that property in connection with the other. Just it would have to be less intense and would solve the traffic. I don't think it was a mistake that was put in that area. Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
I ask you to deny it.
The next speaker is Jesse Aloyski, to be followed by John Guyette.
Good morning. Yes, my name is Jesse Olszolski. We live across the bay there. We are the closest parcel to it. We've been to all the neighborhood meetings. We are not opposed to the project. We're not opposed to the development at all, which we've stressed over and over again. What we are opposed to is this particular parcel. You can call it a mistake, you can call it whatever you want. Who knows how long the land use maps have been what they are. But if you look at the map as a whole, I would consider that a residential bay. I would consider that a residential area. So that parcel being deemed residential is probably correct, or probably was deemed correct at the time. One of the things, because these are all our neighbors, that we're full-time residents. We are not rentals, we're not, Airbnbs. We live here. We can hear the Island House from anywhere on our street or even on Regal Drive, from Gary and Regal. We can hear music at the Island House at night. And noise travels over the water tremendously easily. So, I mean, we can hear people across the bay talking at night sometimes, so much so that I can actually hear the words of their conversation. So the point of this being residential, I think, was correct. So we are opposed to the changing of that because changing that allows, like you said, completely opening up the door for I don't know what it is, 12 or 14,000 square foot restaurant to be placed on that parcel, including filling in that canal that's right there, which is, like I said, they say it's a man-made, neither here nor there, but the reality is we live there, we see alligators, crocodiles, manatees, dolphins, everybody feeding and breeding in those areas. So to us, it's natural. To us, it's residential, and like I said, we're opposed.
Thank you.
John Guyette, and he'll be followed by Susan Guyette.
So forgive me, I'm not a well-spoken man. I'm not. I'm a working man that 12 years ago, I retired. I spent 2 years looking for the place to retire. We found Bonita Springs, literally, and I've not met this man, but we literally went to the fish house and we were having lunch and we were summarized and said, we found heaven. Why go any farther, look any farther? And we bought a home in this area. And it's a lifelong dream. And we've seen in 12 years things change. Big money's coming in. And for a working man, it seems like big money wins, the working man loses. And here we are again. And Jesse kind of identified some of the beauty associated with this little piece of land, this canal. To us, it's not a red mark on a map. It's so much more. Apologize. I wish I could present my case better, but I really don't know how.
Thank you, sir.
Susan Guyette, and she'll be followed by Stu Young.
Good morning, everyone. I have to say, I'm not a very good public speaker either. In fact, a lot of times I'm told I have no filter. So anyway,
In the right place.
that red outlined area does not just designate a change in color. It designates the beginning of a threat to a change of our way of life. As I was looking at the map, I saw that little body of water is labeled a preserve. If this restaurant, the way that they want to build it, is allowed to continue, and this is the first step in that, it's going to threaten not only our way of life, it's going to threaten the way of life of countless manatee dolphins that bring their babies back in that area to play and to learn how to fish and live. The noise will be an issue because, like Jesse said, noise echoes over water. So I am asking you to deny this request. We would like to keep the land designated as it is, and that's all I have to say. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Stu Young.
I'd like to use the visualizer if it's possible, and somebody's phone is still up here that was on it. I don't know how to use this visualizer, but okay. Yeah, my name's Stu Young. I live at 4813 Regal. To me, designating this as a mistake is a mistake. It's clear that this was, someone put a lot of thought into making this residential. If you look at that bay, it is surrounded by residential. This piece of land is surrounded by water on 3 sides. They've said at the community meetings that the side that they want to fill in, well, that was just washed away by rain. Well, that's not true. The water that washes through there is on the western side of this property, not the eastern side. And I'd like to show you a picture, oh, he took the visualizer away. I wanted to show you
He's
a couple.
coming, he's right behind me.
Okay, I'm going to show you a couple pictures. Where'd it go? Oh. There we go. Okay, so that's a picture from the bay and pointing towards Bonita Beach Road. That's the area that is east of this property. And this is the area that they want to fill in and put the restaurant on top of. This has been natural. It is not the result of rain or something washing it away. At the community meetings, they said it was shallow, it was no good, so I took my boat and I put it right up against the mangroves at the far end, and that's my depth finder. And that was this morning at low tide, 3.1 feet. And to show you there's the tide map from this morning. And if I hold my finger, you can see the dot what time it was. So that was the low tide, the morning low tide, 1 foot above 0. And if you look down here, the low tide for later today is 1 foot below that. So it would be 2.1 feet at low tide. That, by filling this area in, we're wiping out the mangroves that are lined both sides of that, and we're wiping out what nature made. I can't remember my last point. All right. So I think you get my point, that this was intentionally made residential because the bay is residential, and by changing it, it would be the mistake, because you're going to end up filling in one side of that and taking out all the mangroves and the nature that exists in that canal.
Thank you.
Would anyone else like to speak under public comment?
Go back to the regular.
Do we have any questions?
I've got two. Thank you, sir.
May I respond to some of the
Yes.
comments before?
Yes, you
I'll
may.
do it at any time you tell me I'm allowed
Go
to.
ahead, right now.
All right, thank you. I'll go ahead, and I don't know if staff had the zoning slide in their presentation. Oh, this is ours. Am I connected? Yeah, I just want to. Can you go to our presentation? Staffs. Can we go to?
Oh, you want the other one?
Yeah, yeah.
Sure.
Thanks.
Hold that up.
Thank you.
You can just control it with the arrows.
Yeah, thank you so much. Couple things to address. First, with regard to the signage, the signs are given to us by the city, and we place them where the city tells us to place the signs. So the argument that you don't have jurisdiction to hear this case today based upon improper notice is not factually correct. And by Mr. Lennick being here, it's evidence that he was fully aware of today's presentation, and with regard to his client, they clearly waived any argument that they were not properly noticed. Another issue is this area is not labeled a preserve. There are parts of this area that are an aquatic preserve. The property we're talking about is not within the aquatic preserve. I can bring Tim Hall up there and your staff will confirm we don't have any environmental related issues with regard to this piece of property. Now, if you look, the entirety of this area is labeled commercial. Clearly, this was a mistake. And the provision that Mary showed you with regard to reference to the LEAP plan, this was intended to come in the way the LEAP plan designated it, which was an intensive use on this particular piece of property.
Could you speak up a little bit?
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. The LEAP plan designated this an intensive use of piece of property. It was intended to come in based upon what the LEAP plan had it when the city became a city. What's there today, everything around us is commercial. This is intended to be a commercial corridor in the city of Bonita Springs. The residents who live there, if they looked at the zoning maps before they bought their property, would have seen we were always designated commercial under zoning, even when it changed over to the Bonita Beach corridor. This property has historically been identified as a commercial piece of property. Parking is addressed through the zoning process. Candidly, we're probably the only property in this area when we get to the zoning that will actually meet the zoning code for purposes of parking. If you look up and down Bonita Springs, and I haven't done the parking calculation on the competitor who is now opposing our project, I'm pretty sure they don't have the required parking. So most,
Excuse me, but that's not in our lane, that's it.
I understand. I just want to make sure.
We're only here about zoning this property, not a speech on all the other.
I understand. I just want to make sure that the record's clear based upon comments that were made by opposing counsel. This piece of property is developable, even under the existing comprehensive plan designation.
What can be built on it now?
Residential can be built on it today. Actually, in my belief is we can go under the existing zoning ordinance today. But we're trying to avoid a dispute with the city because zoning has to be consistent with the comprehensive plan. This property has been commercial forever. The city must have determined that the zoning is appropriate because they never redesignated it.
So the difference between what can be built on it now has a height limit of 35 versus 75. Is that it with the change in?
Well, the zoning is what's going to determine what the actual height is. But right now,
designation from what you want to change it to what it is now, it seems to me at first blush reading this, there's a 40-foot difference in height.
This is not a rezoning.
this is not,
Right.
what we're here is to just properly designate.
So you're telling me that you could build as the way it sits, anything that you wanted, as well as.
What I'm saying is, they're saying don't redesignate this property because if you redesignate it, now it can be developed. What I'm saying is this property can be filled in today under the existing regulations. That's the facts. So the designation, this issue about saying don't redesignate this will stop the property from being developed, is factually incorrect. Those are zoning level decisions. Those are South Florida Water Management District level decisions. Those are Army Corps of Engineer level decisions. Don't be misled into believing if you don't change the designation, you're somehow going to result in this property being preserved and not filled in. Again, those are zoning level decisions that they're trying to bring into the please don't redesignate this property because we don't want this property to be developed. There is clearly no evidence to support that there was contemplation by the city council to pick this piece of property as the only piece of property along Bonita Beach Road to be designated residential when everything else was designated commercial under the growth management plan. We will deal with compatibility issues and the concerns of the residents through the rezone process when we get to that level. But right now, from a comprehensive planning stage, you've not heard anything that is inconsistent with what our position is and your staff's position is the proper designation of this property.
Okay, thank
should be
you.
commercial.
I've got a couple questions.
I've got a question.
Sir.
I've got a question, actually, for John. John, is there a need for an environmental impact study, whether it's built residential or, and I'm not saying we need one or the added expense, I'm just asking, is, from the city's point of view, is there a need for an environmental impact study? And, so go ahead, answer that one, please.
Morning. The level of analysis at the comp plan stage is very general, and what the attorney was just pointing out is factual. When their zoning case is presented, a lot of the details of the environmental concerns and environmental issues on the property will come forward. It's going to show how they plan to mitigate, if they need to, any environmental concerns with their development, and we'll address those at the time. But at this point, with the comprehensive plan, those are just very general discussions.
Okay.
So what's being discussed today is about at the appropriate level.
Okay, and part B is, currently, are there any plans to build any other restaurants on this red area, the CPD boundary? Are they planning to build any other restaurants on there currently?
The only application on this property that's identified as the subject property right now is the current request.
Okay, thank you very much. And I have a question for the speakers. Are any of you opposed to a residential building being built on there, a home? No one across the board, no one's opposed to that? Okay, thank you.
You have a question?
Well, my question is along the same lines. If we do not change it, keep it the way it is, a multifamily unit can be built there. Is that correct? So I understand people have purchased that property. Obviously, people purchase things to make a profit if it's a commercial use. How many does anyone thought of or done a study of how many units can be put in there in that?
We haven't analyzed that because it's our belief that the zoning would prevail on the property, and the zoning allows commercial use on the property. We're going to go forward with commercial uses on that property, and if we have to go through a different, more lengthy process, we will. We're simply here to correct and make consistent the growth management plan document with what was always intended from a zoning perspective to be on this property, which is commercial. There is a mistake on this piece of property, and we're moving forward with commercial on that property.
Thank you.
If I may, John, the difference between the coverages of these two zones? I mean, I think everyone's concerned about waterfront, and filling in the mangroves and all that sort of thing, so that is a concern. But what's the difference between multifamily coverages versus the commercial?
When it comes to what's covered on the ground, they're going to be relatively similar. I know that there have been older projects in this general area for condo developments. And generally, you see something between the neighborhood of 2 to 3 stories over parking. Most of those, if I'm not mistaken, have expired and basically been abandoned because they were done 2008, 2009, and the property's kind of shifted hands several times since then. But when you're really comparing whatever proposed commercial uses are with a multifamily residential use, multifamily is probably going to be a little bit taller. Commercial maybe cover a little bit more at the ground level.
So your pervious surface will be a little higher?
A little bit higher, yes, sir. It's going to require more parking. It's going to require a little bit more in terms of site work, but it's also not going to be as tall. The benefit of having the multifamily here would be some of the views and looking out over the water. To a certain extent, the same thing would benefit a commercial use, but the commercial use is going to be trying to focus how to get food up to where people are eating. So there's a different concern there. I think that what you're looking at here is really more of a lower use with a little bit more lot coverage compared to a taller use with maybe a little more impervious space, if you're comparing the two. For these purposes, though, it is not really this board's decision to propose additional uses or alternative development patterns. I understand topic and the concern, debating the two. But at this point, when we covered some of that discussion, we need to get down to the question of, is this use consistent and compatible with the other areas surrounding it in the future land use map, and is it consistent with the comprehensive plan? You have a recommendation, you have public comment that don't necessarily agree, but in terms of history, if I remember correctly, I think this property was designated this residential because it was under separate ownership from the other properties. And I think at the time that's why it was not included as commercial. However, you're asking an older man to go back 25 years to remember a specific piece of property. So that's where we stand today. I don't know if there's any more questions.
The purpose for my question is just the impact of it.
Yes, sir.
Trying to understand that, whether it's this zoning or existing zoning or a change of zoning, the impact may be negligible, and other than some more lot coverage versus some more height. So.
Correct. And at this stage of the process, that is still an unknown. While you have a companion zoning application that's about to be heard in a couple weeks, that's where they're really going to debate lot coverage and whether this property starts to fill in or whether it stays in its current condition.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Anybody else have any questions? What was the question?
I don't know if staff wants to say anything. Mary, if there's anything additional.
This gentleman's asking if he can go back up as a homeowner.
No, he already spoke.
Public hearing,
He spoke.
Okay, so I guess we need to decide what we're going to do here. I need a motion, one way or the other, so.
Yeah, I think that I understand the environmental aspect of this and the residential right behind the commercial, but it seems fairly apparent that, all the surrounding properties were considered CBD as opposed to residential. Why this one specifically wasn't, doesn't appear that anybody has the exact answer for that. I don't see, from our standpoint today, and not having, we're not the zoning board or anything else, but just looking for a change, I don't see why we would not change this to CBD.
You're making that motion?
And I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Okay, any further discussion? You want to do a roll call?
Member Lombardo.
Yes.
Chairman Lohan.
Yes.
Member Townsend.
Yes.
Member Maturo. Yes. Member Hartford. Yes. Motion carries 5-0.
Okay, next item is a selection of a vice chair, and I would like to nominate Ray Townsend.
I'll second it.
Any? Yeah. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
No.
Okay.
Is there anyone opposed? No? Okay.
And I need a motion for the approval of the May 22nd, 2025
So moved.
minutes.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And the next LPA meeting is scheduled for August 28th at 9 a.m. It's coming up here pretty quickly, and meeting is adjourned. Thank you all for coming.
Very good.